If you're tired of staring at empty seats in your restaurant like they owe you money, because they actually do, this video is for you. I'll break down the 4 likely reasons that your seats aren't filled and what you can do about it. Okay, so before we dive in, here's a quick shout out. If you haven't watched the score video yet, pause this, go watch it, then come back. That video is the foundation for everything I'm about to say, and it'll help you pinpoint exactly where your restaurant stands. The link's in the description. Here's the deal. There are 4 reasons you've got empty seats, and each one needs a very different fix. This quadrant that you see here is like your cheat sheet. And by the way, when I get done with this, I'll also share with you a really accurate way to know if you actually have happy customers. And it's something you can get in minutes without pestering anybody who's in the middle of a meal or asking anyone any questions. But first, let's get to the cheat sheet. Okay, so let's say that you have full tables and there are lines out the door, but half of the seats in those tables are empty. All of this is designed around converting seats into sales. So we have empty seats, but in this scenario, in this quadrant, we have full tables and lines out the door or waiting lists on the phone, and too many of the seats at those tables are empty. So this is a configuration problem. Maybe big booths or tables filled with couples. That's wasted space. Swap out those booths for smaller tables or movable seating. And you're even starting to see restaurants now do like the smaller 2-person booths, right? Because people love eating in a booth. But booths can be unwieldy when it comes to configuration. Take about how much extra revenue you'd make if you filled up 50% of the empty seats over 3 months, and then boom, there's a low risk budget number to make a remodel change and reconfigure things so that you can actually fit more groups through and fill more of the seats in those tables. Okay, so next, your tables are full, but there's not a line at the door. Everything looks fine, but you're not really growing. This is almost always a flexibility problem. Okay, now I'm gonna get a little bit psychological here. There's what's called the Parkinson principle, and it basically says that a fish will grow to the size of its tank and no more. If you have full tables but not full seats, and you don't have lines out the door, a lot of times this is psychologically you've hit your tank's limit. A lot of restaurant owners, believe it or not, they get to this point and then they're afraid to do more advertising. They're afraid to make too many changes because things are good enough. The fix for this is flexible seating that lets you adjust for bigger groups or more guests without risking a major overhaul or something that might disrupt your current flow. Stretch out the tank before you start turning people away. All right, now this one's the heartbreaker, and it really makes people mad. You've got empty tables, but there's a line of frustrated customers waiting at the door. This is almost always a staffing problem. And here's the deal. It's usually not simply that you don't have enough staff. Don't just start hiring more people. First, go watch the cut callouts video. The link is in the description. Learn how to cut your employees' callouts down in half or better, because the more times you have people that are switching out, covering for each other, the longer it takes to turn tables, the service gets worse. You actually might be better off not hiring a bunch of people, but just cutting your callouts down. You might also need to start recruiting differently. We have a video coming out on that soon, but here's a quick tip from that video. Don't just write up an ad trying to find people. Actually write out your training protocol first. Now this sounds like a waste of time. It's not. Write it out and you're going to use that to post and fill in your ad. Better organization attracts better staff, and people can tell when they're looking through ads. The people that are just looking for a short-term fix are going to be the ones that are attracted to a short-term. It doesn't look like people put too much organization into this ad. I've got a whole series on how to recruit and train and keep higher level staff coming up. So subscribe and keep an eye out for those videos when they come. Okay, so now to the fourth, and this is the scenario that most people think is their problem. Restaurant owners think is the solution that actually ends up leading them to their demise. Empty tables and no lines. Now this one's tricky because what you think is the fix almost certainly is actually the killer. In my experience, your restaurant probably doesn't actually have a traffic problem. And if you fix it as if there is a traffic problem, you've created something bigger. You've created a bigger mess. Okay, so before I get into more, let me ask you this question. Does your restaurant have at least 100 Google reviews? In those reviews, does it have at least a 4+ star rating and at least one new 5-star review every week on average? If the answer is no to any of those questions, you don't need to go and do a whole lot of fancy research to figure out whether you have happy customers. You don't. You don't have a traffic problem. You've got a retention problem. Driving traffic will only make things worse, and you should fix retention first. Turn first-time visitors into loyal loyal customers by giving them an amazing experience. And the secret is 3 times. There's a video by John Taffer. Go watch that. Go watch his advice on this. I'll put the link in the description. But here's a highlight to one of the things that John brings out, and that is first-time visitor who comes into your restaurant and has a great experience. If that's all that they have, is just a great experience, and you don't do anything else to try to convert them into a repeat customer, you have about a 40% chance of them coming back. Second-time visitor who has a great experience, about a 42% chance of coming back. Now here's where the magic happens. Third-time visitor who has a great experience, they have a better than 70% chance of coming back over and over again and bringing more people with them. Your objective is to figure out how to get that third visit so that you're creating loyal repeat customers. There are some things that you can do that John Taffer brings up, like putting different colored napkins in front of your first-time visitors and then coming out with a handwritten thank you card from the manager and a discount on the next visit. A number of other things that you can do to take people from that first-time great experience to the second and then the third. And if you go nail retention in your restaurant, your traffic problem will often take care of itself. You're using those 3 metrics in Google. I've got at least 100 reviews. They're 4 stars or plus or higher, and I'm getting 1 new 5-star review every week. I still don't have enough traffic. Now here's where you've got to be careful. There's what's called the bump. If you don't fix your retention, for example, you'll fall victim to the bump. You run a big ad campaign, or it's like when restaurants open up. They oftentimes open up, they see a big spike in traffic, and it's exciting because they think, oh, this is how it's going to be from now on. It's actually the novelty bump. So bumps up, they don't, people don't have an amazing experience or no reason to keep coming back, and so then it drops back down and it's crickets. The novelty wears off, and now you're back to empty tables. Don't burn your first shot at a great impression. Fix retention so that your conversions are healthy, then go ahead and start pushing new traffic in so that it isn't the bump, it's just the hockey stick that is climbing up. And then your big problem becomes, how do I open a second restaurant? How do I get more dining room space? Okay, so I've got some upcoming videos on how to increase traffic specifically, new visitors, new customers, and just a couple of words about that. Your biggest friend is Google Reviews and Google My Business. If you aren't doing anything to actively manage your Google Reviews or your Google My Business profile, go do that. It's what you can do with Google Reviews and Google My Business specific to restaurants to make sure that your restaurant is the one that people find when they go type in, and here's the 3 magic words. Restaurants near me, typed into Google, almost certainly drives more of your first-time traffic than every other source combined. And yes, that includes your big sign out by the road. Restaurants near me is the power now in food services, and so it's free to grab a hold of if you know what you're doing and own that space. There's a bunch of other things that you can do without breaking the bank to drive first-time visitors in droves, and so subscribe so you don't miss that video series when it comes out. All right, so that's it for today. Diagnose the problem, fix the right one, and then watch your empty seats turn into paying customers. And if this video helped, then you can also watch the score video, which will help you cut back on the overwhelm and the uncertainty we feel as restaurant owners. Here's the link to that. I'm Jason with Noggin. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.